Ethiopian. So I had to look that up. I said, I couldn't believe what I'm reading here. So I went to Noah Webster. You know Noah Webster, he defines everything. So I said, let me look at Noah and see what Noah got to say about this thing. So Noah says Ethiopian, ethos. Ethiopian, literally, burnt face. Athen, to burn, oak face. An inhabitant or a native of ancient Ethiopia, which included modern Abyssinia. They're not just talking about that little corner that they call Ethiopia today. That whole continent was Ethiopia, and Abyssinia was included in it. He goes on to say, Noah does, in a general sense, any African, a what? A Negro, a black man. So apparently, George Robinson, when he saw Mosi Nefertari, and he said she was an Ethiopian with the finest black complexion, he didn't read Noah Webster, who said she was a Negro. He called her a nigger, said they called them niggers and everything else, but he didn't read this here. This is Noah talking. So I said, man, you mean to tell me these are Negroes? I went back, I said, you mean to tell me the Zeus? And when they say, and all the gods went on a picnic with some Negroes? I couldn't believe this. Here's the gods of Greece. Now I understood this picture. Now I understood. Then they gone on a picnic with the Negroes, right here on the face. Couldn't believe it. We move on. So this man, Sosostris, was said to have colonized the entire Mediterranean world and even to establish the city of Athens. This is the Greek tradition. You got to read Diodorus. You got to read Plutarch. You got to read Herodotus. You got to read all these irises and see what's going on here. It's all there. But see, the modern scholars just ignore the classical writers. They just ignore them like they don't exist. So Sosostris colonized the entire Mediterranean world. Let's go look at it. Here's the island of Crete, the labyrinth at Knossos. This is the earliest high culture of Europe, off the coast of Greece, Crete. So look at Crete. We go, we can see this is the floor plan of the labyrinth here. And I want to direct your attention to this chapel right here. This is the most important chapel here. This is the initiation chapel right here. The main entrance, you come through here, go in here, and you get initiated. Initiation chapel. Let's go here. See here? Temple of the goddess. They call it the temple of the goddess, the mother goddess. Isis, Hathor. The concept of mother goddess originates in Egypt and Ethiopia. It comes to Greece. Now the archaeologists are digging up in here, and this is what they found here. It says here, an Egyptian pot lid found in the enclosure suggests many possibilities. Perhaps the priestess were trading with Egypt, or perhaps the Egyptian visitor to Crete came to see the temple, which must have ranked among the wonders of the Bronze Age world. Either way, there was contact between the temple at Knossos and Egypt in about 1620 BC. So they're finding artifacts in Crete, Egyptian artifacts in Crete, to establish what the classical writers have been saying all the time, that the ancient Egyptians came and colonized that particular land. But the scholars who wrote that article, they didn't read these books. They didn't read the classical writers. Apparently, maybe they did, they just ignored it. But here you can see on Crete, you can see the processional, where they giving up offerings here with the libation vases here. The symbol here of the bull horns came from the concept of the god Men. Men was called Menkamuhotep, the bull of his mother. It is from that you get the name Mennefer. Mennefer was the capital of Kemet in the north, devoted to the god Ptah. It was there that the king Menes, or Mena, founded the dynastic period using this name Men as Menes. And so the Minoan civilization just even copied the symbols, the bull symbols, and even the name, as they call it Minoan. We move on, we can see here, right in Egypt, Rekhmari's tomb, and under Thutmose III. You can see here, that coming from the island of Crete, bringing these vases and bowls from Crete. This is on Egyptian tombs, showing the cup tomb. These are people who lived in the island of Crete, which the ancient Egyptians termed. We move on, we can see here, right there on Crete, you can see the black and the white. They're clearly differentiating one from the other. On the bull, again, this is a symbol, this is the Egyptian symbol at this particular time. We move on, we can see here, over and over again, you can see the white people, you can see the black people, right there in Crete, on the island. Supporting the classical view that the ancient Egyptians colonized the Mediterranean world. It's right there, all you got to do is go and look for it. Look at this, on the island of Crete. Look at the brother here, they're racing, they're running here. This is irrefutable. This is hard evidence, what we call hard evidence. This is not circumstantial evidence. This is hard evidence. This This is Simbut's tomb. He's showing the Cretan bulls here bringing tribute to Egypt. Simbut in the 18th dynasty. So time and time again, there's no shortage of information. As you can see, showing you, they even found a shipwreck off the coast of Turkey, an Egyptian shipwreck, which is the earliest found shipwreck off the coast of Turkey, where they found Egyptian bowls and vases and artifacts all in the bottom of the ocean here. We move on, we can see here with the cartouches going back to the 18th dynastic period, the pharaoh Akhenaten and Nefertiti, the cartouches found in the bottom of the ocean off the coast of Turkey. So am I just making this up? Is this my wild-eyed Afrocentric opinion? Am I unable to subject passion to reason? Or is it them, the ones who are unable to subject passion to reason? Is that a good question? Here you can see the shipwrecks found all over the place, artifacts that are coming from ancient Kemet. You can see off the coast of Turkey, the island of Crete, where they're finding these things that belong to the ancient Egyptian civilization. So here you can see Brother Jamal Gordon. Brother standing there in the Syrian stance, the way of the heart's on the left side of the body. The left foot forward represents the way of the God, the way of truth. So Brother Jamal standing in the form of truth. Look at this. The Greeks just copied it. This is the first art. The first sculptures appear in Greece with the hands thrust to the side, the left foot forward, and even the braided hair, where they're copying the Kemetic canaans here. The very first sculptures in Europe are copies of the Kemetic sculpture. Yeah, naked Greeks here. Here you can see even the very principles behind the mathematics, which we call the golden rule. They had canaans for mathematical control of the statuary, the Egyptians did. And so the Greeks just copied it. As they measured these statues, they found that they were identical to the Egyptian canaans. Just copying the stuff. They don't tell you this in the schools, in the high schools, junior high schools, colleges, universities, in these racist textbooks that they have in the schools. But James Henry Breasted, who was the founder of the School of Egyptology at the University of Chicago, which is the first school of Egyptology in America, the second being Harvard, founded by Henry Reasoner. Breasted writes in his book of A History of European Civilization, he writes, Rise of Cretan Civilization under Egyptian influence. Because of their nearness to Egypt, it was on the Aegean Islands and not on the mainland of Europe that the earliest high civilization on the north side of the Mediterranean grew up. From the beginning, the leader in this civilization of the Aegeans was the land of Crete. The little sun-dried brick villages forming the late Stone Age settlements of Crete received copper from the ships of the Nile by 3000 BC. So by 3000 BC, this is when Imhotep was on the scene. The ships from the Nile were traveling throughout the Mediterranean world. This is the archaeological evidence here that they seem to forget about. And here you can see here, at 3000 BC, Imhotep had already built this pyramid for the pharaoh's own. So you see they kind of lighten the brother up here, got his hair a little straight here, got the leopard skin here, like they do in the interior of Africa, but the brother don't reflect the leopard skin here. So nonetheless, you get the idea what it's taken. So when they do this to our people, this is what we call the cultural genocide, not only in the black African studies curriculum, but in the entire curriculum across the United States of America. We're talking about the cultural genocide. We're talking about the beating that we take in the history books like Rodney King took in the streets of Los Angeles. We take the same kind of beating in the history book. No different. So here you can see the stones here, the temple of Horus and Edfu, showing you that long before the Ptolemies built this particular temple, that you had foundation stones that went all the way back to the ancient ancestors, Imhotep, and in later periods such as the 18th and 19th dynastic period. Over and over again, the ancient Egyptians used stones from earlier temples to build a new temple because they believed in life being perpetual, continuous. And so they would always use the older temples to give life to the new temples. And so in this particular temple, it's written in this temple that this temple was based upon the canaans of Imhotep. They go back to the book of Foundations. It was founded on those particular principles, and that the first temple of Edfu here was designed by Imhotep himself. It's written in these temples. And you can see here the stones, the foundation stones, that they found in the earlier temples that went into the development of this particular temple here. We move on, we can see here, to go inside this temple was to go back to the primeval hill of the beginning. This represents, the high altar represents the primeval hill of the beginning. The papyrus pillars here represents going back to the Sud region of the interior of Africa, where you have all the papyrus plants and lotus flowers. So to go into the temple was to go into heaven, was to go into the interior of Africa.
See what he said about the lotus flowers. That's where this concept came from, of using agriculture to make these columns. So that guy who built that basilica that's supposed to be so way ahead of his time, just because he used a tree doesn't mean shit. We could go through nature all day long and see a tree growing up with limbs like that. So all he did was mimic nature and put it inside of that place. And I'm not hating on him but trying to knock him. But what I'm saying is, when you do all the atrocious crimes that they have done, selling drugs, pimp, slavery, oppression, war, all that, and then build a temple, erect an edifice to your God, which is just gold, oil, drugs, and diamonds. And then the hard-working people who brought the knowledge and the science of these temples being erected on the earth just get completely overlooked and dilapidated because these same people came in and murdered us and stole all our knowledge. And then they think this stuff is supposed to just be pushed under the rug. It never even surfaced or talked about or mentioned. That's what pissed me off.
Was to go into the land of Punt, was to go into the town into the God's land. When you come upon the primeval hill, shows the pyramid was a symbol, was a design of the mountains in the interior of Africa. So to go into this temple was to go into the central portions of Africa. Now, I deal with this more in my other lecture. I'm not going to deal with it too much. I'm going to show you how this was replicated on the concept designed by Imhotep. Now, this building was designed by Imhotep. This is
what I mean. This is where all building structures, ideal, or the launching of all architect come from. This is in Africa. Melanated man and woman were the first people on earth getting knowledge from sunlight. We built these structures, wrote it all on paper. The Europeans stole all the knowledge from us, enslaved us, and now they run around the world trying to be like, they're the ones who brought this knowledge to the planet.
1000 BC. This is 5,000 years ago that this brother designed a temple, a building like this. Look at the stone here, the stonework here. 5,000 years old. This is a Saqqara complex. This is the main entrance. You enter this particular area, and you go into the complex where there's a pyramid, that step pyramid that I showed you previously. It's inside this particular complex. So going to this particular complex, you traverse this hall. This is very important because this is the first pillared hall, the first concept of a great hall. And so this particular Canaan, they passed on through all the architecture.
Now I want you to look at these columns, okay? I want you to take a real good look at them. You see them? Look at them. Real good, okay? Keep them in your mind.
Throughout the foundations of Kemetic history, from the beginning where Imhotep designed this hall right through the 30 dynasties of Kemetic history. We're going to see here the great temple of Apet Raset, the temple of Amun here. This is as opposed to the temple of Apet Raset, which is the temple of Luxor, which is the temple of Karnak. This is the temple of Luxor.
Look at this. Let me show you something. I don't want this to go by your head. Look, watch this.
Pillared hall, the first concept of a great hall. And so this particular Canaan, they passed on through all the architecture throughout the foundations of Kemetic history, from the beginning where Imhotep designed this hall right through the 30 dynasties of Kemetic history.
Look at the pillars.
We're going to see here the great temple of...
Look at this. Sitting on these grand king chairs. See, these true king chairs. Joe and his money, that shit came later, way later. They stole it from us. This is stuff in Africa that they never showed us in school books when we went to their schools because they wanted to hide this knowledge of us from us. Look at the grand pillars that this guy, you know what? Watch this. Hold on a minute, I'm gonna show you something. You see all this stuff? Look at it, take a good look at it. Okay, hold on.
30 years, and it's still not finished. Why would a that Antoni Gaudi, known as God's architect, who...
That's a lie, because I just showed you these columns. Old as hell. I just showed them to you, old as hell, alright? In Kemet. And those black people are the ones who got it from the sunlight. They got the knowledge from the sunlight. Now watch this.
died almost a century ago. March, Gaudi had a familiar